We all have one or two or more of those types of relationships in our life that are painful. No matter how hard we try or how frustrating it is, we just tend to get back into the same pattern every time that we interact with each other. If you're like me, it's really frustrating because it seems like no matter how much personal growth or therapy work you do, you still go home to your mom or whoever this person is and you're back in that pattern again, and then you're beating yourself up that you didn't do it differently. When we have this wounded pattern of interaction, it's like two magnets that are drawn to each other. So there's a very strong force pulling you back into the pattern, even though you've worked on yourself and you're able to do it differently with other people over here. This pattern is still quite strong. So what we want to do is break the magnetic pattern that has been pulling us together for years and years and years. This is where it gets interesting. The pattern and the wound is in the relationship that you have with this person, but it helps to take yourself out of that dynamic, but look at the pattern in a very clear visual way. This is where art comes in, because when you can depict the pattern clearly on a piece of paper, then it's easy for you to see what's going on and also take ownership of your 50%. That's a big part of healing in relationship, is to become aware of the 50% way in which you show up into that magnetic pattern. If you're like me, in my relationship with my mom, for example, I'm really good at seeing how I think she should change and how she shows up in this dynamic that isn't fun for me at all. And it's easy for me to feel like the victim and feel sorry for myself. But that's not taking ownership of how I'm showing up and engaging in this pattern in a subconscious way, to be fair. But nonetheless, it is me holding 50% of that responsibility. So if I can disengage from the pattern, yet work with the pattern, work with the dynamic in an image, then I can see very clearly how I'm showing up and contributing to it. Are you ready? Do you want to see? Here is the very simple image I drew to depict the relationship pattern that I get stuck in over and over again with my mom. You can see I depicted myself as this like poor, emaciated child with skinny long arms reaching out for something, eyes closed, tears streaming down. And my mom is on the couch away from me. She's got her legs crossed, she's got her arms crossed, she's looking away. She's engaged in some other place in her mind. She's not available. This is what it feels like to me. It's Michelle's felt experience of this dynamic. But right away, it doesn't always happen this quickly, but right away when I looked at this and I was describing it to myself, I said, she's a little over the top helpless about me, about my own character. Holy buckets, it's right there on the page. I can't deny that I said that about myself. And so there comes the ownership. Michelle, how are you a little over the top helpless when it comes to this dynamic? And because I was willingly entering into this work, I want healing and growth to happen. I step up to the cause and say, you know what? You're right, Michelle. You're right, Michelle's drawing. I do get a little bit dramatic, a little bit over the top helpless when it comes to this pattern with my mom. And now that I'm a mom, I've been in the same situation with my kid where she's kind of having a ridiculous tantrum and I just turn my head away and wait for her to be done. See how I don't even have my eyes open? And I remember drawing and knowing like they needed to be these really big eyes and really, really closed. Well, that's part of the dynamic that I haven't been owning is, Michelle, you're not willing to open your eyes and see what's going on and realize it might not be quite as bad as you think. So now that I've had the image communicate back to me how I am showing up and contributing to this dynamic, I have the ability to change. What's happened in my mind is I am realizing that it wasn't ever as bad as I thought. When I was a kid, it was the worst thing ever. It was so painful for me, but I'm a grown-up now. And when I look at this drawing and ask myself, how old are you right here? I'm an adult. I tried drawing myself as a kid, but that's not really who I see. So what I'm also telling myself through this image in a surprising way is, Michelle, you're a grown-up still throwing a temper tantrum like you're a 4-year-old. So great, there's the awareness that I asked for. Do I want to keep doing it this way? The answer is no. There are definitely ways that I engage in a relationship with my mom now that are not satisfying. But I can tell her that. As an adult, I can say, I would really like you to ask me these questions, or I would really like this from you right now. I have the ability to do that, but because up until now, I've been so stuck in just being upset about what happened in the past, I haven't used any of my skills, tons of skills as a trained therapist, to ask my mom to engage with me different in the present moment. Now, what's happened is I feel prepared to show up in relationship with my mom and do it differently. My magnet has been desensitized. So the next time that I come to the table, I'm not going to be that whiny adult having a tantrum with their eyes closed, unwilling to look at and see how things have changed and how I'm actually really okay. And this gave me something that I know all moms want, which is the perspective of, now that I'm a mom, I get it. I know what it's like to have been you. I've never gotten there in a logical way, but this picture has showed me what it's like to be the mom, watch your kid having a total, ridiculous, dramatic temper tantrum, and just crossing your arms and waiting for them to be done. The fact that she's still in the room with me while I'm doing this, that is love. I've experienced that with my 4-year-old, that me just staying while she's having her meltdown is the best that I can do. There's not really a lot I can do when you're choosing to just go into it. To bring it all together. In order to heal a relationship dynamic, you have to step away from the dynamic, yet clearly see what is yours in the dynamic that causes that magnetic shift. You're not responsible for their 50%, and it's easy to tell them and think about what they should do differently, but take it over here and find how you are responsible for 50% of this not fun dynamic. And when you bring awareness to that, that's when you have the choice to shift it and do it differently.